I think I should tell you a bit about myself first. I am the youngest of 8 children, 4 boys, John 26, Harry 25, Fred 23, then 3 girls, Mary 20 and 17, Joan 15, and me Josh 13 years old. Compared to the others, I have always been the odd one out. John and Harry are both successful in business and ruthless. Fred is on his way. He probably is the worst of the lot. No one says no to Fred. I think that's called fear. My mother, Claudette, brought us up to take what we wanted and then go back and get some more. She was a very hard and strict woman, but not in a good way. With her there were no excuses for failure, or in fact anything. If you didn't do it or you failed, let's say, it would be easier to join the Foreign Legion than have to face her wrath. She was a proper matriarch of the family. All the girls had to marry people with money, all the boys were to go to the top of their businesses, at any cost to anyone. Dad just sat in his chair and did what they told him to do in fact, by anyone in the family. They had beaten him down so much that there was nothing left of him, just a shell. He went to work, came home, went to bed. That was his life. I felt so sorry for him because he was a good man at heart, but the fight had now just gone out of him, for many years now, in fact since I was born. His children treated him with no respect at all. He might as well been a lodger in his own house. Well, that's my family. Close, friendly and helpful. But I haven't told you about me just yet. When I was born, my mother said it was an accident, a mistake. She told me that from when I was 6. There was no maternal love there at all for me. Everyone else, yes, me, no. So at least I knew where I stood in the pecking order of things, just below a stray dog. The funny thing was I never really cared. They used to call me Runt, as in runt of the litter. I was small, even smaller than the girls. The only muscle I had was the muscle you could eat. Joke. And as for ruthlessness, forget it. I just tried to make friends and be happy to help anybody. But that was just me. There was one truth that I kept from everybody. If anyone had ever found out, I think I would have killed myself. It was I had always had a fascination with women's clothes. Yes, I know it sounds strange, but the texture of them, the softness always got to me, and I often wondered in my mind, of course, what it would be like to wear them. Of course, I never dared to try anything on, as I knew my luck was to be caught. My brothers and sisters used to come home from school or work, boasting what they had done and how they had done. Our mother was of course always pleased with them. Then, of course, it was my turn to tell our mother how I had got on. As usual, I was about average in most things, but I had always been good in art, English and things to do with my hands. So every day I got belittled about not being able to make it in a man's world, let alone a girl's world. So they had their laughs and the odd name calling, but I just smiled and laughed with them. I never wanted to be like any of them. Deep down I think I hated them all, and what they stood for. It was several weeks after Christmas that Mother received a letter from our great-aunt Agnes. They had never bothered with her at all. As far as they were concerned, she was the batty old woman who was broke and they couldn't have cared less about her, so they never visited or called or anything to her, not even a birthday or Christmas card. What they didn't know was I had known Grandmother Agnes for several years now. No one knew that I was sending her Christmas and birthday cards and that I wrote her long letters telling her all about my life, leaving out the bad stuff as I didn't want her to hear about that. I told her about school and all the nice things I did. It kept me going knowing that there was someone nice in the world out there. Of course, she couldn't write back, as I said to her that it would cause trouble for me. She fully understood, so we left it as a one-way letter stream. Anyway, back to the letter, she asked if someone could come over to help her for a few weeks, as she had hurt her leg and needed for someone to run her errands and help her about. Of course, all she got when Mother read the letter out was a load of jeers and abuse. From the boys, they were too busy, and said, "Who wants to look after an old woman? That's girls' work." From the girls, they just said, "We're not looking after any smelly old woman for anybody, and that's final." Of course, I popped up and said, "I will go over there to help her out. I don't mind." The comments then turned on me. "That's all you will ever be good for," said John. "Don't forget to take your penny with you, Runt." All the girls laughed at that. Mother said, "You can go tomorrow. "You're not needed here for anything. I will tell the school you're sick." But they won't care much either. I tried to hide my smile. A whole few weeks away from them, peace at last. I had not seen my grandmother since I was 6, so this was going to be a new experience for both of us. She lived about 80 miles away, so it was a good train and a bus ride for me. She had sent a few pounds so that I could get there, but Mother took most of that and left me just enough for my fares. I packed my small suitcase, my only suitcase I should say, with the few clothes I had. They were mostly hand-me-downs from my brothers. As they always, like the girls, required new things. I arrived at grandmother's place several hours later. I remembered nothing about her house or what she looked like. I could only use my imagination. Boy, was I in for a surprise. First, her house was a large cottage in its own grounds. It was immaculate. Furthermore, grandmother didn't look any older than my mother. She was ageless, immaculately dressed, complete with high heels. She could have easily passed for a 40-year-old who kept herself in peak condition. I was absolutely stunned, to say the least. This was the last thing I had ever expected. My grandmother's cottage. She recognized me immediately. She flung her arms around me and gave me the biggest hug I have ever had. "Hello, Josh, it's so good to meet you, at last. Come on in and I will show you around the place and your bedroom," she said, and took me by the hand and led me in. I was taken aback a bit as she showed no signs of any injury. I asked her in the politest way I could about it. She just laughed and said, "That was a pretense on my part to get you away from your awful family. I know how they have been treating you, so I decided to step in. They haven't seen me or my place for a good 10 years. All they can remember is an old haggard woman. But as you see, I reinvented myself about 8 years ago when I was fortunate to win some money on the lottery. But that's our secret, all right." She showed me to my bedroom. Before she opened the door she said, "I'm afraid it used to be my daughter's before she passed away, and I haven't had the heart to move anything from it. I just keep it clean. So the bedroom is a bit girly, do you mind?" I said, "Of course not, grandmother." Then she opened the door. All I could say was how pretty everything was. It was absolutely gorgeous. I felt ashamed to be in it in the clothes I was wearing. Grandmother could see it embarrassed me, so she said, "Right, first things first, I think a nice bath for you, then put your pajamas on and a dressing gown. Then come down and we will have some tea. How does that sound, Josh?" I knew I was dirty from traveling, so a bath would be very welcome and a pleasure. I could have fresh water instead of using someone else's after they had bathed, something I was quite used to at home. Grandmother ran me a bath. The bath was ginormous. She filled it nearly to the top and put some whales in it, which made it smell wonderful. I have no idea how long I was in there, for it was that nice. I thought I had better get out as I didn't want to be rude on the first night. So after a good wash and another quick soak, I got out. I wrapped a towel around myself and dried myself off. Then I went to my bedroom and opened my case. I almost cried. They had thought it was funny to take all my clothes out and fill my case with magazines so that it appeared heavy to me as my clothes would. I just sat on the bed and cried. There was a knock on the door and grandmother came in and asked me what was up. At first, I was too ashamed to tell her. Then I realized that I had no choice, so I told her everything. Saying, "I have no clothes to wear at all. They took everything out, even my pants and socks. I'm so sorry, grandmother, to embarrass you like this." She hugged me saying, "Don't worry, little one, I can sort you out for the time being, then we will go to town and buy you some decent clothes." "But what can I wear now?" I sobbed. She gave it a thought for a moment and said, "Look, there are only the two of us here, so if you have no objections, I have a spare nightie and panties you can wear tonight, and a nice dressing gown and slippers. That is, if you don't mind." I smiled and hugged her back saying, "Thank you ever so much, grandmother." She brought in this light blue full-length nightie with dark blue frills around the neck and cuffs, a matching pair of blue panties and a matching dressing gown with some fluffy slippers. She left the room as I changed. As I put everything on, I have to admit it felt wonderful. It was light and airy, unlike my old pajamas. It felt so soft. I felt that I never wanted to take it off again. Then a voice called out, "Are you changed yet, Josh?" I replied, "Yes, grandmother." Good, I am coming in. When she saw me, she looked astounded. I asked her what was up. She replied that I looked just like the daughter she had lost many years ago due to an accident. I said I was sorry and would she like me to take the clothes off. She smiled and said, "No, but since you have such long hair I am going to plait it for you tonight so it doesn't get tangled up tomorrow. Is that all right?" I said, "Thank you, grandmother." So she plaited it into 2 plaits, one either side of my face. Again, I loved the attention and the feeling of having my hair brushed. She tied off the ends with 2 blue ribbons. I looked at myself in the mirror and was so happy about how I looked that a tear came to my eye. Grandmother said nothing about the tear but said, "Well, shall we go down to tea now, Gemma?" I didn't notice the slip of my name, but grandmother excused herself by saying that was the name of her daughter. She apologized, but I said, "I don't mind, grandmother, I don't mind at all." We went down for tea. I was feeling embarrassed by what I was wearing, yet on the other hand, it just felt so nice and comfortable. It's not easy to explain how I felt. We had tea. It was only a light bite, a few sandwiches and cakes and some squash for me. We had been talking all the way through tea. Grandma asked me all about what was happening to me, what did I want to do, plus 1,000 other questions. I told her that I would love to be an artist, but I had no chance of that because of home. She asked me why that was, so I began telling her of my life at home. I wasn't going for a sob story to her, it just started flowing out like a trickling stream. That was when all of a sudden, the dam burst. I have no idea what caused it. Maybe it was all the pent-up feelings that I had held in check for so long, but I broke my heart to her. She held me tight, saying lots of soothing words to me, stroking my hair, I suppose acting like a mother would, something I had never had. She let me finish my crying and for my tears to stop, then handed me some tissues to wipe away the last remnants of them. After about a half an hour she said, "I think it's time for bed for you. I will be up later. I have a few things to do first." I said, "Can I help at all?" She smiled and said, "No, this is something for me to think about, so off to bed with you, sweetie." She gave me another hug and kissed me on the forehead, before giving me a slap on the bum saying, "Off you go now, princess, sorry prince." I just smiled as I gathered my dressing gown around me and went to my bedroom. It didn't take me long to snuggle down, feeling the silkiness of my nightie and panties against my skin. It was the best sleep I had in ages. I think it was because I had let everything out with grandma, and she had listened. There was no shouting, no telling me to grow up and be a man, there were no comments at all, except loving ones. And the excitement of what I was wearing now, and how it seemed to be making me feel all comfortable and warm and fuzzy. Morning came, I woke up feeling wonderful. I slipped on my dressing gown and slippers and went downstairs. Grandma wasn't up yet, so I decided to give her a treat and made her a cup of tea and some toast. I placed it on a tray, then went to her bedroom, knocked on the door and waited for her to say come in. When she did, I entered and gave her the tray of tea and toast and smiled at her. She looked at me quite strangely and said, in her half-awake state, "Thank you, Gemma, my sweetness." Then she put on her glasses and said to me, "I'm so sorry to call you Gemma, Josh. But without my glasses you look so much like her. That's her nightie and dressing gown you're wearing, and with your hair in plaits. Just for a moment I thought you were her. I'm so sorry if I offended you at all calling you Gemma, please forgive me." I looked at her and I could see she was upset, so I said, "Gemma is a beautiful name, and I'm glad it made you happy for a moment, and there is nothing to forgive. If you ever want to call me Gemma when we're on our own, please do. I felt so much love in it when you said it." Then quietly I left the room. I could hear Grandma shedding a few tears which she was trying to conceal. An hour later, when she came down, I had washed up the cups and plates from the night before and tidied the place up. I was still in my nightie and dressing gown and my fluffy slippers, as I had nothing else to wear for the moment. She looked so pleased with what I had done and thanked me. I said, "I find it quite nice to have a place to keep clean and tidy. I like doing that when I'm allowed." We sat down together and had another cup of tea I had made for us both. Grandma kept looking at me and then drift off for a few seconds. I just kept quiet. All of a sudden, she looked me straight in the eyes and said, Now we have to go shopping today to get you some proper boys' clothes, as you can't keep wearing girls' clothes, can you? I think my eyes gave me away when I said with a bit of a flat voice, "No, I suppose not, Grandma." Now we have a small problem though. You have no boys' clothes to wear, have you? I replied. No, Grandma. The clothes you wore yesterday are all in the wash. So the only thing I can think of is that you go out shopping today wearing some of Gemma's clothes. Have you any objections to that? But I will look silly, I said. I don't even look like a girl. She just replied. After I have finished with you, no one will be able to tell the difference. If you don't like the end result, we will think of something else, all right. A small smile came to my lips when I said, "Okay, Grandma, but I must have the last say if that's all right with you." "Certainly," she said, "it will be up to you entirely." We went upstairs to my bedroom when Grandma said, "First, a few rules. You must shower every morning without fail while you're here. I don't want a stinky person around me." I laughed. "Second, when you have showered and dried yourself, I want you to apply this cream all over your body. It will help soften your skin. So while I sort out some clothes for you, you can be showering." I just nodded and said, "Yes, Grandma." After I had showered and rubbed the cream in, it had a lovely smell of roses. I wrapped a towel around myself and went back into my bedroom. With some trepidation, I might add. She had laid out on my bed a small padded bra, matching panties, a pair of shirt tights, a white petticoat and this beautiful pink sleeveless dress with a fitted top and a pleated bottom, complete with a pair of matching shoes with a 2-inch heel. I was stunned, flabbergasted, shocked. It was beautiful. "Well," she said, "do you approve?" I think my face answered that question. "Now let me help you to get dressed," she said. "There is an art to it, but you will soon learn. First, put your panties on and tuck away your spare bits right underneath, so that you only show a flat front." She discreetly turned away while I did this. "Next, your padded bra. This will make the dress fit more perfectly. First, put it around your waist so that the back is in the front and do the clasps up. Then pull it around the right way and slip your arms through the shoulder straps. This is the easiest way to put a bra on. I will adjust your straps for you." When she had finished, I had a small pair of my own breasts showing, thanks of course to an uplift padded bra. I just kept staring at them. "Now sit down and get your tights, and one leg at a time gather it up on your hand. Then starting with the toes, gently pull them up to just above your knee, then do the same with the other one. Now slowly work them up to your waist, keeping them taut all the way." How does that feel? I didn't say it, but it felt amazing. The smoothness of my legs combined with the shirt tights was like nothing I had experienced before. Next, the petticoat. Step into it and pull it up to your waist. This is to stop any static making your dress cling to you. I nodded in agreement, as I felt the shirt tights sliding against my petticoat as I moved. Last, the dress. It has a back zip, so someone will always have to zip you up or down, whatever you want. Now slip it over your head and gently work it down until it's sitting in the right place. Adjust your petticoat, and when you are ready, I will zip you in. As she zipped the zip up, I could feel it tightening against my skin, taking its shape to me. I noticed that it also showed off my small breasts, which the bra had made for me. I felt the tightness of the bra, the tightness of my tights, and of course the firmness of my dress. I felt if I was going to faint with excitement. "Nearly there," she said. "Just your hair and a bit of makeup to do, then a few odds and ends and we're done." I never realized what a woman had to go through every day, but I was loving it. After Grandma had brushed my hair out, I noticed it had become all curly because of it being plaited. She brushed it into shape, then applied some hairspray. Then she got out her makeup bag and took out some pink eyeshadow and brushed a smidgen on my eyelids. Then she got out some pink lipstick and put a little on my lips. She said this would match my dress and blend in. She also found a pair of small hooped clip-on earrings and a few bangles for me, and then gave me a squirt of her perfume. Then she said, "That's it, you look perfect. Now try these shoes on. You should have no difficulty waking in them as they only have a small heel. Now, are you ready to venture out, Josh?" I looked at her and said quietly as I went slightly red, "Grandma, if I'm dressed as a girl you can't keep calling me Josh. I sound so wrong, and people will notice and guess I'm a boy." "Well, what would you like to be called then? I held her hand and looking down on the floor, mumbling, Gemma, if that's all right with you, Grandma? As I raised my eyes to see what reaction I was getting, I saw her with a big smile on her face. She looked at me and said, Of course, Gemma, I will call you anything you want. I gave her a great big hug and said, Thank you, Grandma, I love you lots. I had never been so happy in my life before. I was so happy and yet so confused. Here I was dressed fully as a girl in every conceivable way, getting ready to go out and let people see me dressed like this, and yet I was feeling so comfortable in these clothes, and I didn't feel out of place wearing them at all. And it was making me so happy and contented. As we were walking into town, it was only about half a mile away, Grandma said to me as she was holding my hand, Gemma, you look absolutely beautiful. You remind me so much of my Gemma, I replied. Thank you, Grandma, I hope I'm doing her and you proud. I could see a small tear in her eye, which she soon wiped away. Before we go shopping, Gemma, shall we have something to drink and maybe a cake as well? What could I say but, yes please, Grandma? I also wanted to stay dressed as Gemma as long as I could, to be honest. After we had eaten and had our drink, Grandma said, Well, I suppose it's time to do some shopping for you. I expect you will be glad to get back into your own boy's clothes. As she went to get up, I didn't move. She saw I had tears in my eyes. What's up, little one? She said as she sat down again. I looked around and said very quietly, Grandmother, please don't hate me, will you? Of course I won't. She replied, putting her arm around me. Now tell me what the matter is. Huddling right up to her, I whispered, Grandma, I don't want to go back to be a boy or dressing like one. I want to stay as Gemma, all the time. I love the dresses and you treating me like a girl, it all makes me so happy. And I want to stay with you as your niece Gemma forever. Please don't be upset or mad with me, please don't. I'm sorry if I have upset you telling you this. If I have, we will go and buy some boys' clothes for me and I will go back home tomorrow. She just looked at me and said, Gemma, it's too early to say anything like that. It's only been a couple of days you have dressed as a girl, and it's not as easy as you think. It's not just dressing up, it's all the other things that go with being a woman like cooking, cleaning, shopping, and 1,000 more things. Do you understand? But I will tell you what we will do. You are with me for at least another 5 weeks, so you can become Gemma 24/7 for all that time. Then we will still see if it's your cup of tea. If it's not, then we will say no more about it and you can go back to your own family without anybody knowing what happened here. Is that fair enough? Without a pause I said, Yes, Grandma. We did go shopping, but wasn't for boy clothes, it was for more panties for me, some more padded bras, and some tights and a small amount of makeup. I was also treated to a manicure and we went into a hairdresser to have my hair styled in a girl's style. Even my eyebrows were plucked into an arch. Grandma was making sure that I could not be mistaken for a boy at any time during these 5 weeks. Or as she put it, my trial period as a girl. During the next 4 weeks, I not only had to dress immaculately as a girl, including keeping my nail polish from chipping, I also learned how to cook and serve a meal. Also, how to walk in high heels with confidence, how to apply my makeup in the right order, and not to just slap it on, do my hair in different styles. I learned how to sit and stand discreetly like a woman does, how to talk and use gestures as women do. I even had periods explained to me and shown a Tampax and a sanitary towel and when and what they were used for, and that to blend in I would have to pretend that I had periods of my own and have to wear a sanitary towel for 1 in 4 weeks, just like a normal girl, until I was at least 40 years old. I thought at one point I was going to collapse with exhaustion with all this information. All of this was going on as well as cleaning, washing our clothes, ironing, making and changing the beds. Even going out to different places so that I would learn how to cope with people. Every night I went to bed exhausted, but with a contented smile on my face. And I could see that Grandma was enjoying it all as well, having another girl in the house. Not once did she refer to me as anything else as Gemma or her, or my niece. She took me to her friends' houses and introduced me as her niece, who was staying with her for a while. No one suspected that I was a boy. I did have comments though, like, Doesn't she look pretty? And, what a lovely girl you have there. Every comment felt like a badge of honor praising me as a normal girl. It was at the end of the 5th week that Grandma called me in and sat me down. I knew this had been coming, but I still wasn't prepared for it. I sat at the table with my ankles crossed and my hands holding each other in my lap. "Well," said Grandmother, "this is your possible final week as Gemma. What do you think of everything so far? Do you still want to become a girl, with everything that it involves? As you have learned, to be a woman is very hard work, and most of it is continuous work that you will be expected to do, and with no thank you for doing it. It will become just woman's work. And if you meet a boy or man, that will bring another scenario into play for you, because you won't be able to have children, your answer will only be to adopt. And you will have to explain to that person why you cannot have children." I sat there listening to her. She had brought up things that I had not thought about, but the more she tried to turn me off the idea, the surer I was that this is what I wanted. At the end of her lecture, she looked at me and said, "Well, my girl, what do you think about becoming a girl now, especially after all that I have told you?" I smiled back at her and replied, "Grandma, even with everything you have said to me, and everything you have helped me learn, I still want to be your niece and live here with you." Grandmother smiled and said, "I thought you were going to say that, Gemma. It doesn't surprise me at all. You have enjoyed everything I have told you to do, and you have listened and taken it all in. And that makes me the proudest grandmother that I could be. Now, I will be talking to your parents later, asking if you could stay with me longer. If they agree, later I am going to suggest that I become your guardian. I will tell them that I will homeschool you, and any money due to you they can keep. That should make them satisfied." I thought to myself, is this really happening, or am I going to wake up back at the other place and find it's just been a dream? The following Monday, Grandmother wrote a letter to my mother asking if I could stay longer, as I was a great help to her, especially with her being so poorly and all. As expected, a reply came back saying, "Keep him as long as you want, he's more useful to you than he is here." Then her signature. No greetings, no how is he or how are you, just nothing. I was upset in one way yet pleased in another. There was no caring, no interest, nothing. I cried a little, but Grandmother soon cheered me up. She said, "Well, Gemma, I think you have just taken your first step on your journey." 2 months had passed since Grandmother had her reply from my mother. Since then my mother had still not inquired about me or Grandma. Then Grandmother took the next step. She wrote to my mother explaining that I was helping her a lot with everything, and would she like her to take over my guardianship. She added that she would homeschool me as I wasn't that bright. "Thank you, Grandma." So any money that I was getting, child allowance etc., she could keep, as it was better spent in her sons and daughters than wasted on me. Of course, Grandma showed me the letter before she sent it so that I knew what was going on. It didn't take long for my mother to reply saying, that would be a very good idea, as I was of no use to her anyway, and providing she could keep the money for me, she could see no problems, as her other children needed a lot more of her help than she could possibly give to me anyway. So if you could send the relevant forms over, she would sign them and return them to her straight away. When we received that letter back, I cried, but with joy. Grandmother was now my legal guardian. It took another 4 months to manage to get an appointment with the doctor who dealt with transitioning. His name was Dr. Robinson. It was quite funny in some ways, as I had been dressing as a girl for quite a few months now, about 9 or so. So when we went to see him, I felt quite at home. It was almost like an interview for me, because everything was becoming so natural for me that I think it was hard for him to remember I was a boy, not a girl. After an examination and 1,000 questions, he finally said, "Well, I think taking all these circumstances into consideration, and that you are living full-time as a girl, I think we can go to the next step and give you a prescription for your female hormones and your testosterone blockers. And again, I think I will refer you to Mr. Jameson, who is the surgeon who will carry out the final transition for you. You should hear from him within the next 2 months. I wish you the best of luck in the future, Gemma." I came out of there floating on air. Grandma gave me a great big hug and said, "You're nearly there, Gemma. Just a short while longer, and you will be my niece forever." We then both broke down in tears of happiness. It's now 2 years since I had my operation. I will say it was quite unpleasant sometimes, the things I had to do. I think I will say no more about it. But in the end, I know it was the right decision, in fact, the best decision I have ever made. Grandma and I are very happy together. She has taught me so much about everything as well as life. I start college next term. I'm studying art and graphic design. I have been out with a few boys but nothing special, as I promised grandmother that I would stay a virgin until I met the right man. And I am going to stick by that, as a thank you for everything she has done for me. As for my other family, they just faded away. As far as they know, Josh left grandmother's and was never seen again. Lucky enough her niece Gemma was able to take Josh's place. How lucky is that for her?